As we're there we
Cheers.
go. Spirited clinky this morning.
That was a nice clink. That's pretty solid.
It was. Had a nice reverb.
You're living life on the edge, Drew. You got no lid on that mug. You're just going topless.
I don't even care.
On the show.
I don't even care. We're wild here.
But Contigo never lets you down.
Oh, yeah, well, check this out. No,
Please don't.
that's not how we're gonna start this.
No. We're gonna strive to make what could be a pretty boring and technical topic.
I'm interested in what you have to say about this. Brian tells me yesterday, hey, we're gonna talk about cap threads.
And you're like,
He says it's more exciting than it sounds.
It is.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to try to really sell it hard.
I've got some questions. I'd love to
great.
hear what you
Great.
have to say about
Okay,
this.
so here's what I've got going on. Cap threads.
Cap threads.
Okay. Specifically screw caps, obviously, because threads work best when you have a threaded screw cap.
Those snap caps that I have with threads are just annoying.
It's just the worst.
Oh,
yeah, really
why?
working against itself. No. Specifically screw cap threads on a pen. Why does that matter? It matters because for people that actually use their pens, which you use your pens.
I do.
I use my pens. Andy uses her pens. You probably use your pens if
They
you're
work
watching
better
this
when you
video.
use them.
Yes. Well, I mean, they can be art. They can just kind of sit there and be pretty.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Andy's like, you guys are too much. No, but if you're actually using your pens, you're going to cap and uncap your pens a lot. And when you have a screw cap, there's a lot of advantages to that in terms of how solidly it holds on and how long it's going to last and all that kind of stuff. But if you have threads that are really long and you have to do it multiple times, that can be really annoying. That can be a deal breaker for some people about whether or not they like the pen. Like that one thing. And it's not necessarily something that you think about initially when you're buying the pen. So,
Right. But if you're, depending on what you're using it for, if you're using it for long writing sessions where it's going to stay uncapped for a while, maybe it doesn't matter.
as much.
But if you're going to be using it for quick note taking, on off,
which is
you probably want something that's going to
that's-
unscrew quickly.
That's where it's coming from my heart.
Well, there you go.
Because I'm a quick jot note taker kind of person because we're going around the office. I have meetings all day. So I want quick uncapping pens. So that's why I had this on my mind. So one thing I want to explain is that we have a technical spec on our site.
We do. It's super cool.
That lists this because we didn't have this for years, but about a year and a half ago maybe.
It's probably like the most
We did
recent
it.
kind of
think it is.
tech spec endeavor that we've done.
Yeah, so if you go under our technical specs on any given pen product page, it's called cap rotations. And it'll have some number, maybe with a decimal point after it, as to how many rotations it takes. And if you look at that number, you're like, I don't really know what that means. So that's part of what this is about too. So what I have done is I have found different examples of pens that have different types of cap threading and how that makes a difference.
So you've got one that has really a lot of them, one that has a few of them. Cool. I can't wait.
Yeah,
Let's talk.
So we're going to start with maybe a longer one.
Okay.
And then work our way towards the shorter one.
All right.
And so first one I have here is the Jinhao Shark.
Oh, you know what? Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
You couldn't tell what this
no,
was.
I was
right?
like, that's a
I
Homo
know.
sapiens,
it
right?
looks so much like so many other pens. But no, if you go to uncap this pen, it's going to take you a few
That
different
was what, 3?
turns. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you can do, this is just a little hack for you. This is not complicated, but I'll just show you what I do. I just take my finger and I put it in one place, use a reference point like the clip. I don't know where you're going.
I'm going to get this one because this one's long too.
Okay, fair enough. You hold your thumb in one place, and all you got to do is just count how many rotations as you're kind of gently tugging on it. So that was 1, 2, 3. It's like over 3 cap rotations.
Yeah.
So what that means is you're not going to be able to position your hands once and just unscrew unless you've got some freakish technique to be able to do that in a single twist. It's probably not what you're going to do.
Oh wow, Drew.
Ah!
So if
Nailed
you're,
it.
If you're like a Cirque du Soleil contortionist, maybe you can do it.
One rotation.
So how many? No. No.
All right. One.
No, you got to.
two.
No,
Wait.
No. You didn't just listen to what. See, he didn't just listen to what I just said.
I was going to get it.
No, see, you gotta
All right.
hold your finger in one place.
Okay.
And then you gotta count how many times the clip rotates around.
You know, you did say that.
That's what the measurement is because that's the only. See, that was 3, 4. That's long. That's long.
What
So,
pen is that, Brian?
This is the Opus 88 demonstrator.
I just knew that one had a ton of them.
It does have a ton of them. So yeah, it means you're gonna have to position your hands multiple times. How many times you have to position your hands depends on your specific technique and your hand size and all these types of things. But it's 4 rotations. That's a lot.
It is.
That's a lot. And that might be a deal breaker for some people. Maybe not.
Maybe not. If you're not a quick jotter, if you're writing a novella, then you're in fine shape.
There you go. So, yes. Novella. I just don't hear a lot of people talking about that, but
It's one of those words
that
you
is
just
technically
strive
correct.
to use.
And part of the reason why pens like these ones have such a long, like, effort to, I don't know, it's not the right word.
It is.
But
it's perfect.
such a great amount of effort to uncap is because they only have one single point of entry where the threading starts.
Because I asked you this week, I thought that the amount of twist you had to do depended entirely on how many threads there were. And you said, alas, Drew.
Yes. So this
is not the case.
Yes, there's a couple different things going on here. I won't get deeply technical, partly because I'm not a manufacturer and I don't know all the technical stuff, but certainly the length of threads, like how many threads you have, can make a difference. If you have it like threads that go the whole length of the pen, you're gonna have to unscrew it a lot. Just like when you have, a wood screw that you're trying to screw into a 2x4, the longer the screw, the longer it takes to thread it in. So that's part of it. The thickness of the threads, the pitch of the threads, all that comes into play.
Wait, what's pitch?
Pitch is like the angle. So if you have like a really kind of a shallow angle, it's gonna have to go around more times to go down in place. Whereas if you have a really steep angle, it's just gonna be like whoosh, 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 whoosh. I didn't pull examples of those because that just gets more information than you need.
Yeah, I think so.
But generally speaking, when it comes to pens, and if you have a really shallow angle, it's not gonna hold the cap on very tightly. That's why.
Are you talking about like how tall the threads are?
Well, that's a factor.
Oh,
that's
goodness.
like thread width, yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
The angle.
Yeah, like the angle,
So the threads are, like,
they're at a slight
horizontal.
angle.
Oh, the threads actually point up?
Well,
Like-
look at it. It's kind of slanted, right? So it's going and it's screwing
Oh,
down. I'm
like-
saying if you have a more aggressive angle
I
like
see,
that,
okay.
yeah.
The thread angle. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. It's cool because other people are like
Just as
in
clueless.
the same place. Yeah.
I hope so.
So anyway, so the more aggressive you have that,
Gotcha.
the faster it'll screw on, but also the looser it'll be.
Gotcha.
So that has to come in consideration when manufacturers are making pen caps because you don't want a pen that's going to unscrew itself and fall off.
Right.
So there's a certain pitch that it has to be. And then the other thing, which is really what I want to talk about, has to do with how many starts there are to the threads. So this is what's called a single start thread. There's only one point of entry on the thread. The cap is always going to align in the exact same place because there's only one place that it can go.
So if I have a very specific, design, or if I want to match my stuff up, then maybe a single start thread is good for me.
Boom. And that's exactly what we're talking about. So for example, this is the 100th anniversary Yukari Namiki pen, or pilot pen. It has a single start thread because the design of the pen is such that they always want the ship to line up to Mount Fuji. If you had a multiple start thread, it could end up being in a different place.
But you'd be able to cap it quicker.
Yes. So there's a little bit longer thread pattern on this one, but the design is always going to line up. They did that intentionally because the design is one of the more important elements of this pen. So I want to show you some other pens that have multiple start threads, like the Custom 74. This one actually has a dual start thread. This one, the Custom 74, dual is not quite as common, but it is, twice the number of starts as what you have on the Jinhao or the Opus. So it has two different places, and you can't really see it on the camera, but if you look at it, you can see there's like a point of entry here, and there's a point of entry on the back. So basically, you can have two different places where it starts, which means if you're just shoving your pen in, you're going to catch that thread sooner, and this cap is only 1 3/4 rotations, as opposed to something.
So at the end, that clip is going to be in one of two places.
Correct.
I gotcha.
Now on this pen, it doesn't really matter because there's nothing on the body.
Right.
So you can't really tell. But if you notice when you first get the pen, it's got that little sticker that has the nib size on it. If you are capping and uncapping the pen, the sticker will either end up perfectly aligned with the clip or completely on the back.
Right.
Because it has two different starts. So that's a 2-start thread. Let's go to what's called a triple start thread.
Whoa!
And this is actually one of the most common thread patterns that you see in the fountain pen world, because a triple start means it's going to be relatively easy to catch it in any given place, so you don't have to like hunt around and do almost a full rotation to catch that thread to start, and then it's going to be relatively quick to cap it. So this is the Conklin Durograph, and this only has one rotation in order to secure it in place. So like if I hold my finger there and I uncap it, see, it's basically one rotation, and then it's off.
And that's crazy because if you look at the amount of threads on the Custom 74 versus the Durograph, they look like they have the same amount of threads. So what you're talking about at the start point, it really does make a big difference.
It does.
How
It's
about
a little more complicated to manufacture a triple start thread, and more often you're going to see them on cast acrylics, not so much on injection molded pens. Not that it can't be done, but it's just a little less common. So this is what you're going to see on a lot of different pens. The disadvantage of having something like this is if you have any engraving on the body of the pen or any design element, it could end up in any of 3 places on the back of the pen. So if you're like a little kind of OCD and it has to match up, you might have to hunt a little bit to find that perfect place. But you can always look at if you really are specific about it, you can always look at the orientation of the nib and where the engraving is and just kind of learn exactly where you need to put the pen and do that.
So if I saw on our website that we have a pen that has very few turns, I can almost bet that it's going to be a triple start.
You can almost bet. You can almost bet. Because that's going to be the most common, or it's at least going to be a multi-start thread. The Edison pen, this actually has a quadruple start thread. So you're going to end up in kind of a similar situation. And I pulled this one because it has an engraving on it right here. So you can see Edison Premiere.
All the Premieres are going to have some type of engraving.
So if I try to line it up so that the engraving is right there.
Right.
So you see, like, if I...
You get that click, and that's your cap jumping off.
See, now it's 1/4 this way. And if I do another click, I'm going to the next thread. Now it's completely on the back. If I go to the next thread, it's over there, and the 4th one.
So with a quadruple start, you can just put it where you want to.
Pretty much.
If you just keep on at it.
Now these threads are a little bit longer than this, so it's 1 1/4 rotation. So that's just the number of starts doesn't necessarily dictate that, but it does dictate how easy it is to catch that initial thread.
Cool. Was there any other thing that really factors into number of rotations? Or is that pretty much it?
There's a few. I think I've mentioned all the factors here.
Okay, cool.
But the number of starts is probably the biggest one.
Awesome.
And then the last one I wanted to show is the Homo sapiens.
Those are no threads.
Well, it's a screw cap, sort of. It's a hook safe lock. It's kind of their own mechanism, but it does have a put in place and turn to get it in place. But it has 5 different places that it starts, and it shows it very obviously because it's got these gigantic hooks.
Yep.
And so this is actually a 5th of a rotation. So you really don't have to move the cap very much
Barely
at all.
a turn at all.
Yeah. So there's 5 different places it can start. And you can see that because the center band doesn't line up unless you get it almost perfectly right. You just have to kind of learn over time where to put it in place.
That's a fun pen to cap.
It is a fun pen to cap. But it gives an example of like single, double, triple, quadruple.
You know what, Brian? I'll give it to you. This was way more interesting than I thought it would be.
We had to sell it a little hard, but you know.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
We're all pen nerds here.
I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah. So anyway, it's something to take into consideration. If you are like super, super particular about making sure that your engraving lines up and you need to know, we have the number of rotations on the site, on the product page, but we don't have like the number of threads, number of starts on a thread. If that matters to you, you might just want to ask in the Q&A and then we can look it up and let you know. But that's just like, we can only have so many technical specs on our site, and for some people, they just don't care.
Right.
So we gotta be specific about
that. That's awesome.
There you go.
Well, thank you. Hopefully my ignorance benefited the rest of you in some way.
And hopefully now your ignorance has been relieved now that you participated in this. Anyway, you can check out these pens on gouletpens.com. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and right on.